How's it going, everyone? It's Ben Foggins Media Corner back again with a brand new video for today. Welcome back to the movie review, aka for our Soul review video for today. This time for this new episode for this series is going to be my review on the 2023 supernatural horror film. And this film is the 6th installment of this franchise, and it's also a direct sequel to the original film that came out 50 years ago. And as you guys can tell from the title of this video, of course, I'm here to review The Exorcist Believer. Now, this is directed by David Gordon Green, and this is his newest horror film that he's done here. And in recent years, he has started doing horror films, like he did the Blumhouse Halloween trilogy, which were, of course, Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. So now he has come to make a new horror film, which is this film. And so the story of this film is that we follow this photographer named Victor, played by Leslie Odom Jr., and he's also a single father in which he has a daughter named Angela, played by Lidya, and she has a friend named Catherine, played by Olivia. And what ends up happening to these two girls is that they disappear into the woods and they end up going missing. But 3 days later, they return from being missing with no memory for what happened to them. But later on, they start to show the signs of demonic possession, which unleashes a chain of events that forces Victor to confront the Night of Evil. And with him desperate for help and also being terrified, he seeks out Chris McNeil, who's once again played by Burstyn from the original Exorcist movie, to help him out, since she's the only person who's still alive and she has witnessed something like this before. So that's pretty much the story of The Exorcist Believer. Now, the original film, The Exorcist, which came out 50 years ago, what can I say about that movie? It is such an iconic horror classic. It is one of my all-time favorite horror movies. And it is still to this day my favorite horror movie that deals with the themes of exorcism as well as demonic possession. And it is definitely one of my favorite films from the late great William Friedkin, in which, as you guys may know, he passed away this year, so may he rest in peace. And once after that film came out, it started spawning out a few sequels. And I have seen the sequels, and for what I think of them, the second movie I did not really like at all, really. 3 I actually kind of enjoyed, and that one I think is pretty underrated. But for 4 and 5, in which 5 is actually the prequel to the original film, I thought both of them were just absolutely awful. So when I heard we were getting a new Exorcist movie, I was pretty curious to see what this one was going to go for. But I was still looking forward to this film since I'm a massive fan of the original Exorcist movie. And usually when it comes to like these kind of films, and like in recent years, we tend to get a pretty few bad ones. Well, we've had a few like surprisingly not too bad ones in the last few years. And as for this year, we've had a few not too bad like exorcism films and all that. Like we've had The Pope's Exorcist, which that film was surprisingly not bad. I thought that film was overall not too bad of a watch. Even though I did go into that low expectations thinking it was going to be an awful, but no, I surprisingly did not mind that film. And then we've had The Nun 2, which I enjoyed that film a lot more than the original film. And also, I was really surprised that David Gordon Green was going to be directing this film, and once I heard he was doing it, I was pretty curious to see what he was going to do for this film. And since at the very start, when he started doing horror films, it was a pretty good start for him when he directed the 2018 Halloween film. But when Kills and Ends came out, both of them weren't really my kind of cup of tea. I did find both of those films pretty disappointing, but I didn't hate them. I just thought both of them were just mediocre films. But I was still pretty curious to see what he was going to do with this new horror film here. And as for the cast, like, you got a talented cast here in this film. Like, you got Leslie Odom Jr., who I think is a pretty talented actor. You also have Ellen Burstyn in this film, which I was really surprised that she was going to be in this movie. And when it comes to her as an actress, I think she's a phenomenal actress. Like, I loved her in the original Exorcist movie, as well as some other things like Requiem for a Dream and all that. And lately in recent years, for like horror franchises, we've had a few like revival ones in recent years, in which some of them have been surprisingly pretty good and all that. Like this year for like horror, like for some horror franchises here, like the ones that have been revived, they've actually been surprisingly pretty good. Like we've had like the new Scream films. Like we've had the 5th film last year, which was really great, and most recently we've had the 6th film this year, which I also really like that one as well. Then we've had the new Evil Dead movie, which that was awesome, and even the new Soul film, which I had a lot of fun with that one as well. So I was hoping this film could be like that, could be like those films. And I went to see this film at my job for free and in a pretty packed screening, and I still have my ticket for the film, which I do have it right here. And after watching this movie here, unfortunately, I wouldn't say this film is on the exact same level on some of the horror franchises that have been revived pretty good here, because I found this film very disappointing here, and this is easily got to be one of David Gordon Green's worst films he's done for the horror genre here, because I just found this film really terrible here. When it comes to the story for this film, I just found the story for this film just to be flat out generic and yet really basic here, because it's just pretty much being the exact same as the original film, but instead of having just one girl who's being possessed by a demon, it's actually two girls who are being possessed by demons. And yet, this film does tend to throw in some elements from like some generically bad horror possession films, in which when it came to all that here in this film, from seeing all of that here in this film, I just found myself remotely bored while I was watching this film here, because I just found this film overall boring here. And yeah, I didn't find myself remotely invested that much with the characters here, that much. And when it comes to the scares in the film, it's when we get to see the moments where we see the girls starting to act up once they're being possessed by demons in the film. In which, when it came to those moments in the film, they were not overall that scary. I just found all those moments really awkward here. And when it comes to the effects in the film, they're okay, but they're nowhere near on the level of like how the original film helmed its effects in that film. Because in that film, the effects in that film are one of the best effects I've seen for a horror film ever, and yet they still hold up to this day since it was released back in 1973. And when it comes to the direction by David Gordon Green and the editing in this film, they weren't that good as well here, because I found all that here really messy here. And when it comes to the acting in the film, the acting for the most part isn't too bad here. Like Leslie Odom Jr. does a solid job here for his performance in the film, as well as like the young girls who are being possessed in the film. They didn't do too bad for their performances here, and everyone else for the most part, I thought they all gave decent performances. And as for the cameos in the film are fine. Like, it is great to see Ellen Burstyn back in this film, and her acting in the film is really good here. Like, it was great to see. Like, I was really happy that I was really happy to see her again, since I really loved her in the original film. But overall, in the end, guys, The Exorcist Believer, yeah, unfortunately, this was a very disappointing horror film here, and this is easily got to be David Gordon Green's worst horror film here. But since at the very start when he did horror, it was a pretty good start for him, but lately it's just gone way down. It's just pretty much gone downhill here. And just, like I said, just everything about this film just felt really lacking here. Like, it just lacks the charms and lacks the scares and all that. And it's and the way it was just played out here, it just felt like I was watching another generically bad horror possession film that I've seen before in the past. Yeah, but if you are a fan of the original film, you may enjoy this one here. But for me personally, I did not really enjoy this one here overall. So that's pretty much all I have to say about The Exorcist Believer. I'm gonna give The Exorcist Believer 1.5 out of 5. Like I said, I did find this film very disappointing here, and like I said, this is easily got to be David Gordon Green's worst horror film he's done here, and we are going to get another entry to this new series that he's doing here, so I'm kind of curious to see what that one's going to go for when we get that pretty soon. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching for my ACAF Sword review on The Exorcist Believer, and let me know what you think of this movie if you have seen this already, or if you've recently checked it out, this film. Did you really enjoy this, or were you very disappointed with this? As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and this has been Falcon's Media Corner signing off.